Hello everyone, welcome to the second episode of Real World Alpha Chats. I am Gini, short for Shivangini, your host for today. We'll wait for 2 more minutes to let everyone join, and in the meanwhile, I'll take you all through the flow of the second episode. So, as we all know, eMoney Network is world's first MiCA compliant RWA blockchain, and we have launched this series to discuss RWA tokenization and its growth. Now, in today's episode, we have invited the alphas of the RWA industry. We have Raj from eMoney Network, Kevin from RWA.inc, Rishabh from Sharpe AI, and Toma from Kima Network. Thank you, all of us, for joining us today. I think we can begin. Awesome. So let's begin with our episode number 2. Please note that in the end, we'll open the floor for all our listeners to ask questions to our speakers today. Perfect. Okay. Let's start with a quick introduction for all our speakers, and if you all could just introduce and enlighten all our speakers about your projects as well. Let's start with Kima Network.
Yeah. Hey guys, just checking that it works because you all know Twitter Spaces and you all know how problematic it is.
Always.
Good. Then I'm happy that I'm audible. We may continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, then Raj, you can start with your introduction and let our speakers know about eMoney Network.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, sure. Thank you very much, Kenny. And thank you, Tomar, Rishabh, and Kevin for joining this space. Really appreciate this. A quick intro about eMoney. We started in 2020 as part of Scale-up ecosystem. It's the first ever public permissioned network, which is MiCA compliant as well. Pretty much, which is very much like as JP Morgan Onyx blockchain, make it to public like Binance Smart Chain. That means the chain got a fully regulated module in the core consensus Genesis, which asks all the questions very much like as a bank. And once everything is passed, user will get permissioned wallets on the eMoney network, where the wallet address is an IBAN number. We are the first blockchain in the world which issues IBAN numbers as wallet addresses. That means we not only offer pretty much a bridge for tokenization of the RWA assets, but it's an infrastructure for RWA projects to get everything in one place, which includes onboarding, conversion into the fiat, getting that fiat into brokerage platforms, or buying any RWA, which includes proof of identity, proof of compliance, proof of ownership, and proof of custody as well. That's a brief intro about eMoney. About myself, I'm coming from fintech and regulatory background. I'm a certified AML specialist in UK, qualified in economics in Oxford, been in this industry for quite some time. Crypto only like 4 years, mainly working with several crypto projects, helping them to go through regulations and compliance to adopt Web2 in their atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raj. Tomar, would you like to give a little intro about yourself?
Yes, please. Thank you. Try to be brief. Hi everyone. Tomer, CMO of Kima Network. 25 years digital marketeer, 12 years an angel investor, a strategic advisor of selected few. And my day and nights are 24/7 around Kima, which basically created the first interoperability communication protocol to unify and connect the centralized financial ecosystem with the decentralized financial ecosystem. We basically unify the connection between all blockchains and non-financial ecosystems and between each other, of course. We're doing it with a unique network that has no users, has no smart contracts, and has no liquidity on it. The only thing that we have on our network is our nodes that are in charge of transferring messages between these financial disparate ecosystems in a completely decentralized manner. And we are doing it by being the only decentralized protocol on Earth that has an SDK and an API, and that's how we're connected the centralized, the Web 2, as we call them, applications into, two Web 3 decentralized applications on blockchains. That's about Kima in a nutshell. You can think of us as a bridgeless bridge, but with Kima you can do much more than only bridging, of course, assets from one side to another. You can basically initiate any API call on any API call in any centralized and between centralized and decentralized applications, which basically the sky's the limit using Kima. That's it. We will go a little bit deeper into the solution if we will have questions later, or if I will see fit to mention it in other answers. Thank you guys for having me.
Amazing. Thank you, Tomar. Over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, everyone, for joining this session. My name is Kevin Yunai. I'm the founder and CEO of RWA Inc., and we are real-world asset tokenization and investment ecosystem, and we are building very, very great products as we speak. A full platform consisting of Launchpad, Marketplace, and with trading functionality. And on top of that, also building all our operational systems to take care of tokenization of real world assets from A to C, which is a huge development task also. So we are very, very busy launching our own token, hopefully in a few weeks or months, depending on the market conditions. But we are right on track, and we are super excited also to be here today with all the strong partners. And I'm looking very much forward to speaking today.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Rishabh, would you like to introduce yourself and Sharpe AI?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Rishabh Narang. I'm the founder and CEO of Sharpe AI. My journey began in crypto in 2012, 2013. Like everyone else, pretty much started out of pure curiosity, mining Bitcoin. Fast forward to 2016, when Ethereum first came onto the scene. And this is around, I think, the ICO mania. The more intrigued I became to really understand more about how smart contracts work. And this is the time I started my first company in crypto. Since then, I've been building different ventures in the space. And Sharpe AI is the culmination of all those years of spending time in the deep crypto trenches, trying to solve the real world problems and frustrations I experienced as a builder in this space. Sharpe is now the biggest crypto super app with over 150,000 users and $500 million in platform volume. And I'm excited to share with you all about what we are working on. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Rishabh. Perfect. Okay, so my first question is to Kevin and Rishabh. What do you think are the main obstacles to the widespread adoption of RWA tokenization, and what strategies do you think can overcome these challenges? Rishabh, would you like to go first?
Sure. When it comes to real world assets, we are dealing with, let's say, a classic case of chicken and egg problem. I really like what eMoney is doing, and obviously I've been following the project for a while. MiCA compliance, again, really important. When it comes to regulatory uncertainty, it really is important to build solid infrastructure and having liquidity. I think the big hurdles for real world asset and tokenization in general is really about building trust in underlying infrastructure. And a lot of people don't really understand don't really understand the technology, and the regulatory maze is also like pretty hard to navigate as a founder. And I think the key is really focusing on building credibility, which obviously I see a lot of what you guys are working on, and tokenizing very simpler, understood assets first, working closely with regulators to create clear frameworks, and most importantly, prioritizing education, because I feel like that's like one step that we need to make faster adoption of real world assets happen. And I think ultimately it's about providing a solid value proposition and having better liquidity, having lower costs, and again opening up investment opportunities which are otherwise, let's say, not available. I think those are places where I think we have the obstacles and also the solutions to work on.
Makes sense, right? Regulations and liquidity, I totally agree. Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I want to say that we first and foremost have an amazing opportunity now to get the entire Web2 community and investors to onboard into this amazing Web3 space and ecosystem overall. And as you know, the worlds have been very divided in the past. You all have probably friends, colleagues, family who have been very bearish on crypto in the past, right? But now the trust is so big in Bitcoin, it's so big in what we all are doing, that we see a tremendous shift in sentiment from the old traditional investors, from the institutional investors, yeah, from the entire, we call them the entire Web2 ecosystem. So, but they're still very uneducated, many of them. So we really have to start very, very from the beginning and explaining and educating these massive amounts of people about the wonders of Web3. But we have to remember, not many have a wallet still. So that's where we are. So when we say, so we on our websites and front ends communicate connect wallet, we forget sometimes that 80% of our potential clients, they don't even have a wallet, right? So we have to start at a much lower place sometimes and really educate and make the onboarding simple for the Web2 people. So that's basically an obstacle. The educational level has to be in focus. We have to all educate our network about how to install a wallet and how to transfer, and the best way is simply to help out and show it. And once we have that education rolled out, we can then take them on the journey, explain them about the smart contract and all the other open ledger technologies and all the technologies we are building every day. Moreover, of course, there is the trust and all the regulation and all those issues that Mr. Rish also mentioned before, and that is also a big obstacle still. But it's getting better, and the regulators are really starting to move very fast, actually accelerating their efforts. We can see they have gotten many more resources now and also insourced a lot of experts now working for them. So all in all, we see tremendous growth in also their ability to help companies like us and programs, sandboxes, and all kinds of ready concepts are being presented now in the various jurisdictions. So it seems like we are finally at that equilibrium we dreamt about, where we are actually working together to solve some of the past obstacles for rolling out, especially security tokens in the various jurisdictions. So definitely things are working in our favor. And then, of course, there's the macroeconomic obstacles, right? There are wars, there are uncertainty, there's presidential elections where we don't know who's going to win. So there's also many obstacles at a macro level, but I would also call them opportunities at a macro level. So I think, and this is our belief in RWA, that Bitcoin is doing all the work for us, actually. And you see the coin recruits even presidents now to promote it. So I think we as an industry are very, very fortunate to be exactly at that point of time in history now where we could see the complete implosion of fiat and totally transformation into Bitcoin and other types of cryptocurrencies. So I think we are very exciting times, and I think everything works in our favor. And the obstacles we face every day I think they are tangible. We can solve them together,
Totally
especially
agreed. Like, yeah,
especially as an industry. Yeah.
totally. Yeah, I think the industry overall is, great at converting obstacles into opportunities. Definitely. Thank you, Kevin.
You're most
Okay,
welcome.
now that we're talking about the regulatory frameworks and how those obstacles are being faced in the industry, the second question is to Raj and Tomor. How do you see, these regulatory frameworks influencing the development and the adoption of RWA tokenization?
Yeah.
Anyone can go ahead first. Yeah.
Please, Raj. Yes, please.
Thank you, Tomer. Thank you. When we talk about the regulatory frameworks, what regulations are mainly worried about are three major things. Number one are those real world. I mean, if you take one step back, I said this in many places, that we can't buy a Tesla share just like an ETH or a BTC. There is a process to buy a Tesla share. I have to go through a broker platform. I ask certain questions, and once you pass the questions, then I can buy a Tesla, Apple share, commodity, whatever it is called as. Even to buy a real estate property, there is a process, right? So that's number one, how the real world asset is being sold. That's what mainly regulators look into. Two, how the funds are being moved, technically, in short, the liquidity, how it is being moved around, how it is being used. That's number two. And number three, how the trade is happening. Is the trade happening in a very legitimate manner or not? So these are the main three major things what regulators may look into. Well, of course, with the growing regulations, where most of the different parts of the world, regulators are understanding how this is. I mean, real world asset tokenization can be worked out, a clear framework of the regulations, giving a very certainty right now in the market that yes, it can be done, it can be accepted. For example, as Rishabh and Kevin mentioned before, that having a proper platform like RWA has doing right now, like the proper marketplace, where everything can be sold in the right manner, where you can tap into the liquidity and the cross-chain based without any smart contracts and everything, which is what Kima network does, and where projects can onboard their users, through e-money network, which is a completely MiCA compliant, and they can access different kind of assets, swap everything on the AI powered, platform, which is what Sharpe AI did. So this regulatory certainty gives people to build more and more products, because we have a clear way of going forward, and that brings more and more projects coming to the crypto industry, where they can tokenize the real world assets and they can bring more liquidity into the Web3. So in short, the TVL of Web3 right now, which is 1.5 trillion, can really grow to 3 trillion, 5 trillion with a clear certainty of the regulations. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I will answer from a little bit of a different angle then, to make the listeners see something that might have been missed with all the things happening and being heard around the RWAs. So RWAs are bringing great blessing to the network. Of course, it brings new. It's tapping into new sources of liquidity that are not accessible to that today. These assets may be today in T plus zero manner. To those of you who do not know what a T plus zero manner is, it's basically transaction plus the days that it takes. For example, you're buying a stock, then it usually takes T plus 2. If you're about a stock, usually it's T plus 2, T plus 1 transaction day that you made. The whole process will be finalized by a day or two. That's the actual time it takes for the transaction to be ended from side to side, from your bank to the stock exchange to the money transfers, etc. RWA, of course, completely eliminates that need, because transactions on chain are happening on the spot in real time. Then our transactions are, the RWAs are tapping into a liquidity source that is basically liquid 24/7. You can sell something and get the money right away. The money has arrived. It's T plus zero. It's something today unknown to man, to the speed of a transaction finalization. Imagine that you would have bought something in the supermarket, you would have paid for milk, and the guy that gave you the milk now, instead of taking the money from you, would need to wait 2 days to get the money, and you did not really got the milk, but the milk was positioned there that it's yours, and only when the guy gets the milk, then you can basically take it. That's how basically the industry works today, like in a nutshell. Now, it also taps to the DeFi industry is tapping into, whole new realms of assets that we did not know, right? For example, now if you want to find safe haven during market turbulence, as we had before, we cannot tap into bonds. We cannot find safe havens by buying the S&P 500, and we cannot do so by buying something safe and stable like a Microsoft stock or whatever. Everything I say, guys, is not financial advice, DYOR. So, although you have all kind of tools, to companies who tokenize stocks, and you have all kind of tools who are indeed giving you access to bonds in the US, but they're still decentralized, centralized assets. Then RWAs are giving all new opportunities to invest in real estate and generate yield from real estate, to find safe haven in bonds, to find safe haven in stocks, and even if you want to find safe haven by investing in gas, renewable energy, and diamonds and other precious metals, et cetera, and so on and so forth. The regulatory challenge that e-money solves, for example, in that case, as part of our mutual partnership, is the need for a KYC, KYB, to know who exactly is purchasing which kind of asset in which country. Stock exchanges are limiting for example, individuals to buy certain assets from certain countries, or limiting you by the amount of assets you can buy. There are various reasons for it. So imagine that if RWAs will have no regulatory compliance and will have no regulatory overview, then basically someone, let's say in Iran, for example, can suddenly become a main shareholder of some kind of a technological company in the US, and vice versa in that example. So we do need these in order to understand who is standing behind the screen and who is now taking ownership of which kind of asset and in which manner. Of course, markets can be manipulated, for example, in the form of stocks, if we will allow unregulated access to RWAs. In stock markets, we have regulations who are providing the high volatility that we're facing in crypto, as you guys know, and are disabling the ability to manipulate, well, mostly, we won't get into this today though, the manipulations that are being done in the crypto markets by a very few entities, we call them whales in the industry, who are holding large positions of certain tokens. So there are many regulatory blessings, and there are also a lot of regulatory complications that we are receiving with the blessings of RWA now being part of our amazing industry and ecosystem. I think, of course, that the virtues overcome by far the downsides, and it's going to be very interesting to finally see these taking shape and form in marketplaces, in people's wallets, because so far we could only imagine in our minds to see how these are happening, and we had only very limited and complicated way to engage with these using decentralized forms. Then it's going to be very interesting. As I said, what Kima actually does is Kima enables the communication. It's nice that we have RWAs. It's very nice that we all have real world assets, but due to the fact that they're in the real world, we need to enable the decentralized industry to basically communicate with these entities in a decentralized manner, in a trustless manner. What Kima basically does, as I said in an example that we discussed before, is basically enabling the actual facilitation of these trades. We're enabling any centralized entity that tokenizes real-world assets to communicate directly with any wallet on any blockchain on Earth, and vice versa. transfer these assets, manage these assets, and thanks to various entities, again, such as, for example, in our here and now e-money, to basically engage directly with the user who we know who he is in a regulated manner that is compliant and safe. Then it's going to be a very interesting year to see how innovations are coming and taking a shape and form in our industry, while connecting real-world assets to our decentralized virtual blockchains. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomar. I totally agree. Regulation is a key to security and safety as well. Great. Next question to you, Kevin. What opportunities do you think this RW tokenization presents?
So the short answer is endless opportunities, because everything is going to be tokenized. Every asset you can imagine is going to be tokenized over time. And we see that especially on company equity now, big demand for that. We see it in real estate, commodities, even in personal brands wanting to tokenize the future cash flows, IP rights. Everything is in the move at the moment. So really it's a matter of now structuring the process and going to the market with very strong partners and really take market shares, because the market is there's some discussion about how big the size really are, because there are different numbers flying around. Our calculations say at least 20 trillion, but it can be discussed how much of that will actually be tokenized, but we think a large sum of that over time will be tokenized. So there's room for everyone, and that's why the industry is working so closely together. We see each other as partners and help each other. It's not like other industries as competitors. So that's really what's so unique about the RWA industry, that we work across, we list each other's tokens, we cooperate in so many ways, and it's really beautiful.
Totally agreed. Right. Thank you, Kevin. So what role do these technological innovations such as blockchain, smart contracts play in enhancing the efficiency and, security of RWA tokenization? What do you think, Rishabh, these technological innovations do?
Yeah, I think look, trust but verify, right? With blockchain, you get this immutable, transparent record, which not only shows you the complete ownership, but also the transactions over time, right? Just early on, I spoke about trust being again a big factor when it comes to RW adoption. I think with smart contracts having the ability to automate a lot of the middleman processes, having the option to have all compliance coded into the contract, so it happens almost instantaneously and automatically. We obviously have the option to also have fractional ownership, right? Which obviously is going to be big over time. Although I still feel more about having simpler fractional ownerships and simpler products such as bonds and US treasuries than, let's say, doing tokenization of a skyscraper. Again, that's just my personal opinion, but I feel like over time, obviously everything's going to be tokenized. And I think over time, it's not really about just the tech itself. It's about how we use it. I think the real innovation comes from combining the tools in the way they create, let's say, new possibilities happen, where when it comes to, obviously with RWA, it is about how can we democratize and how can we change the way ownership and investment works in the world, right?
Definitely. Great. Okay, so then I think with the technological innovations, it also disrupts the traditional financial landscape. So Raj, this question is to you. How do you think the RWA tokenization is disrupting the, traditional financial landscape?
So, well, traditional financial, well, it's the RWA tokenization, the RWA is benefiting both Web3 and Web2. Now, well, it's very much like ET, what we did to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So much by tokenizing the RWA assets, we are taking the people in crypto buying them, and then that means the liquidity is kind of going that side as well. The traditional industry is getting more buyers from Web3 world to buy them. It's like the use case of those assets are growing much more area. Not just that, we are using those assets as a collateral in the DeFi. That means we are getting more yield on these assets, which will go back to the traditional financial industry as well. For example, if you look into the different DeFi platforms, for example, Ondo Finance, even we have several DeFi RWA-based DeFi projects. What they're doing is they're tokenizing the T-bills, they're tokenizing the bonds, they're tokenizing the debt bonds as well. But as a result, what's happening is that, by tokenizing them, we're getting more buyers from the Web3. The money is flowing in both sides. That gives more use case and liquidity into the Web3 and more buyers for the Web2 side as well. Yeah.
Makes sense. So it's basically an opportunity for both Web2 and Web3 players. Right. Okay. Thank you so much, Raj. So Tomer, what do you think? How will this, RW tokenization open up new asset classes for communities that were previously, maybe not in reach or out of reach?
Thank you for the question. Indeed, it's a very interesting one, and I kind of tapped into it while explaining before. Then I will now basically go a little bit deeper into it by explaining how they will get that access. Imagine that at the moment, we don't need to imagine. So you just look at the markets and you see all of our the DeFi crypto bros. Most of the industry at the moment, if you look at the actual assets that our communities are investing in, it would be either tokens or NFTs. This is what basically we're holding as investments. Most of the people that were, let's say, born into the Web3, which are, OGs that have been here, some from the first Bitcoin, and some just joined a little bit after Ethereum was invented, and some of us just joined, in the last crypto bull run. So those who joined this amazing ecosystem are most likely, from what I saw working with a lot of communities on various projects, are people who were not sophisticated investors or stock investors in the past. Before COVID, the only thing that was mostly available to the normal average person as an investment was to sit down with your investment banker in your bank and to get a recommendation what to invest in, and they would manage your stock portfolio. Then COVID came and people started trading using Robinhood, if you remember. Robinhood became a thing, it became huge, and other trading apps, and suddenly we saw the rise of the retail investor. Same thing happened with crypto. While these people who were here for a very long time started transferring, liquidating assets into US dollars and started building their wealth with lending protocols by investing in early tokens, etc. And their money basically lives on chain. Most of their assets, most of their yields, they live on chain. And in their bank, you will see that they have $20, but they have 20 million on chain in their wallet. You wouldn't believe how many of these I met already in the past few years. So these communities suddenly are getting access to assets who were never here for them before. Suddenly they can become homeowners. They can suddenly invest in another country, in an asset in Mexico. They can generate yield that is stable from rent. They can buy fraction of an asset that they couldn't do before. But using tokenization, we basically can do it, right? So it gives us access not only to the decentralized community, it gives us access, also opportunity to engage with the centralized community who so far could not buy, let's say, a villa I don't know, in Monaco with 200 other people, and actually having a protocol that will manage the yield generated from it and will distribute it to 200 wallets, 200 investors. All of these communities are totally new blue ocean communities who are suddenly going to get the opportunity to invest in these assets. Of course, real estate is not the only example. We have commodities, we have stocks, and the sky's the limit with RWAs, art, and whatnot. And this gives diversification of portfolios to us as a crypto bros community that we could not do before. Our safe havens were very limited and in the hands of a few entities. If we're looking at stable coins as a safe haven, then we're in the hands of Circle, Tether, or now PayPal with PayUSD and the likes of them. We all remember what happened the last time that we had this nice dude from Korea, Do Kwon, having a ride on all of us with UST. Then I will not even get into it. And we all remember what happened when we had some useless, needless FUD during weekend for Circle's USDC that suddenly lost peg 26% over a weekend when everybody were at home with a little bit of rumors. So here we basically can now park our money in an apartment in New Delhi. We can park our money in a store or in a shopping mall in New York. And we can basically just put them in a stocks or bond in the US market, in the Indian market, in Canadian stock markets. And we're getting freedom to hedge ourselves against the known and very familiar crypto risks in a very centralized yet decentralized manner. Then we're going to enjoy it both as a Web2 centralized community and as Web3 decentralized community users. Each is going to enjoy it in a different way, in a different manner, and it gives opportunity to all of us to get access to assets that we were locked away from, if it was in terms of regulation, just lack of the technology, or lack of the ability to afford it. Then it's going to be very interesting again to see how these happen. I think that we're going to see also new RWA tokenization opportunities. If you remember, we're in the Web2 era. We have all kinds of centralized fundraising platforms to invest in companies that you're basically pre-buying their products, and by that you help them raise funds, right? You remember all of these? We have many of these, all of these crowdfunding platforms. Imagine that we're giving all of them now the ability to tap into the DeFi ecosystem with their crowdfunding capabilities, and for us to tap into their amazing opportunities. We're also enabling companies raise funds for their own shares by tokenizing their shares without needing to go to the stock markets. You don't need an IPO suddenly in order to share a percentage of your equity. You're basically selling it to one centralized RWA provider that is holding these assets, and now the public on DeFi can get access to buy a piece of that company in a very easy and swift manner. Again, new communities and new opportunities for all of us. Going to be very interesting, and looking forward to see again which innovations we're going to see in the near future that are utilizing these amazing technologies to tap into these communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomar. It was actually mind-blowing to, realize the kind of opportunities it is being open for, such diverse asset classes. Thank you, Tomar. So, okay, now that we've discussed the regulations, we've discussed the diverse asset classes, we've discussed the opportunities. Now, how can one approach scalability in the RWA tokenization projects, especially, when we are dealing with these diverse asset classes and regulatory environments? So this question is to Raj and Kevin. How can one approach the scalability in the RWA space?
Yeah, I can answer that, no problem. So scalability when it comes to the well, of course, following the regulations, number one. Number two, tokenizing different classes of the RWA that will help us to put in different parts of the DeFi. As I mentioned before, right now we are, if we take the DeFi part of it, we are using ETH or BTC as a collateral to get a loan of certain amount in USDT. So technically, we are using an asset in Web3 to get a loan of another amount which is in Web3 as well. So the liquidity is moving within the Web3 industry to add liquidity more to it, so we can tokenize different classes of RWAs. Number one, shares. Number two, commodities. It can be gold, silver, or it can be tea in Sri Lanka, or it can be tequila in Mexico. There are different kinds of commodities available which you can tokenize them, and of course apartments, houses, lands. There are different ways we can tokenize them, and once we tokenize these assets and bring into the Web3 world, now I can use 10,000 Tesla shares as collateral to get a loan, or I can use my tokenized gold as a collateral. So when these collateralized real world assets are coming into the Web3 industry, a new collateral asset is created. So when more new collateral assets create, the one thing we need to understand, the variability in these assets are very, very low. For example, BTC, ETH have a huge variability in the price, like we've seen in the last 2 days, how much it can vary. But when it comes to the gold, silver, all these things, they're very, very, very much stable. I mean, of course, the price increases, but in a very stable manner. So that means you can get better DeFi based loans on these assets. So by scaling the tokenizing of the RWA under following proper rules and regulations, increases the liquidity which can come into the Web3 world. Eventually, that increases more projects building on top of it, and growth of the industry, not only Web3 but also the Web2 industry as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Raj. Totally agreed. Kevin, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, I totally agree. That was spot on. And yeah, I mean, it's all about, really completing each of the offerings that all the players in the ecosystem are offering, and really get into operations and really start to onboard, as I say, also the new segments that are not yet in the Web3 space. I think that is how we really, as an industry, scale. Of course, there's also the Web3, but they will hear about us anyway. So that's considered the prime market. But really, when you speak about scaling, it's new market and new users, and that's really why we from RWA Inc. are very focused on the non-cryptos as a segment that we really want to convert. So it's almost like evangelism, right? That we really want to change the narrative and make the Web2 industry bullish about the Web3. So I think that's the key to massive global scaling, and we strongly believe that's the right strategy.
Totally. I'm sure, all of us are being able to attract the Web2 industry very well into the RWA
Yeah.
space. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so what lessons can be learned from the early adopters of RWA tokenization, and how can these insights, inform future developments in the industry? To Rishabh and Tomar.
Yeah, I think early adopters of the tokenization have really given us a crash course, if I may, in what works and what doesn't. I think the first step should be getting regulators on your side early. I think it's a very crucial step having a very compliant framework, long term, super crucial. I think secondly, it's about transparency. It's not just nice to have. I think it's pretty essential. It's about letting investors see exactly what they're getting. I think also if you look at when it comes to transparency and like BlackRock's build fund, it's really not about just like offering a product. It's really about educating and teaching investors about tokenization. I think that's a pretty smart move. I think the more the people understand the tech, the more they'll use it. And I think the last thing I would touch upon is something I initially touched upon earlier as well, and that is about distribution. I think eventually, in the long run, liquidity is king. I think Ondo Finance is doing a pretty good job at that. They're not just tokenizing assets; they're pretty much building a marketplace to trade them. I think that's going to be really important in the future as well. So yeah, that's basically what I think is pretty much needed for mass adoption.
Agreed. Totally makes sense. Tomar, what do you think? What are the lessons that can be learned from the early adopters?
So I'd say that at the moment, we had in the previous bull run, we had a few companies that were engaging in these. Those of you who remember, it was a big hype around STOs, the security tokens, and tokenization of centralized assets in a centralized manner. We still have them. It's just changed the kind of the term for all of it under RWAs today. I'd say that the lessons that we can learn from the early adapters is that there's not enough financial education in the ecosystem to explain why diversification of assets is needed to the general public, why they need to diverse their portfolios. I think that's why many are being wrecked in this industry and then losing faith in crypto. You will see that many of the people who join crypto and are doing some money usually lose it rather fast, like in a casino, because they just go to the wrong kind of assets. Now, I'm not saying that a casino is not a fun place to be in and you don't have opportunities in the casino. What I mean is that there is not enough education about why you should diversify your assets into a few kinds of holdings. And the early adapters of RWA tokenization will basically show us how the ecosystem deals with the lack of privacy that we've enjoyed from so much so far, with the lack of anonymity, and with the lack of ability to do whatever we want due to limitations that we will have in the RWA contracts that, of course, have to comply with these certain regulations. And what we've learned from the past, you can say early adapters of RWAs that we had in the previous bull run, again in the STO age, is that the market was definitely not ready for it back then, and that adaptation was kind of failing due to lack of education that had to come from basically the industry leaders towards these assets. The crypto industry as a whole, the whole decentralized finance world, is in complete chaos. We're an industry that has RWAs and stable coins and blue chips that is looking at scammers and scam tokens and rug pulls and all kind of other risky assets, as meme coins and anonymous fork projects with all kind of weird empty promises for a bright future and that are running away with users' funds overnight. I hope that we will be able to learn from the first real early adopters of RWA, who they are and who they are branching out to and from. As a digital marketeer, I believe that we do not know the identity of the RWA adapter yet. We have no idea if it's going to be someone like me, who is a yield farmer and an angel investor and somewhat, you can say, of a stable, less risk averse investor. Although I hold, of course, meme coins, but I'm not aping into positions. Or maybe, it's the degen ape, that finally, got wrecked too many times and wants to find some safe haven and relax, knowing that he's taking his profits now and he can relax by having an income from half of an apartment in Mexico or something. Then I believe that this is probably the most important thing that we are going to learn from the early adapters, and that's basically who they are. Who is our RWA consumer? Who they're going to be? I have no idea. I think no one knows yet, and it will be very interesting to learn. Thank you.
Totally. Thank you, Tomar. I totally agree that education and basically getting to know who these people are is super important. Okay, perfect. I think that ends all our questions. Now, before I open the floor for all our listeners to ask their questions, anything any of the speaker would like to add? Okay, there was a silence. I would take it as opening the floor for other questions. Okay, so I have a request from Kofi, I think. I have given you the speaker access. You can ask your question now. Okay, some technical issue. If anyone else has a request, please raise your hand and I will give you access to ask the question. In the meanwhile, also go through the comments. Okay, I have a question in the comments for RWA. How will RWA.inc deal with geographical barriers due to restrictions, and also what RWA will do differently in tokenizing assets?
Yeah, so of course we follow all regulation, and there are certain banned countries we cannot engage with, of course, like North Korea and so on. So that's standard for all the players here. But we do have strategies also for helping in our market. So what we actually are doing is setting up offices in the various jurisdictions so that we are closer to the issuers of the real world assets to be able to help them. Right now, for instance, I'm in UK. We have set up company here. It's a news. I'm sharing a little early. Hope that's okay. So yeah, we're doing a lot of things to really be present with our clients and future clients. Also, we are making it very easy from an onboarding standpoint by developing great software and platforms. So yeah, those are some of the things we're doing. And of course, keeping ourselves updated on each regulation in each jurisdiction is also part of it, so that we do things right. And there are many variations actually in how to do things. Some territories have very, very strict KYC and AML requirements, even for utility tokens, and others do not. So yeah, so there are many variations and very much complexity in doing this, but that's why we are working with a lot of strong partners, legal partners and auditors and so on, so that we always are up to date on how to engage with the clientele. I hope that answered some of the parts of the questions.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. Okay, I can see one more question in the comments asking, so this is for eMoney Network. So Raj, the question is, what is the purpose of creating the project and what is the purpose of eMoney Network?
Good question. I mean, as Kevin mentioned before, every jurisdiction have different kind of regulations and compliance, right? So how you will make sure that you are passing all or you're fulfilling all the regulations required by that jurisdiction, while let it be onboarding the user, let it be providing the services. So that's where e-money network come in place. The network itself called as e-money network, there is a reason behind, because it's a fully permission network which allows people to, it's a modular based network. You can configure the way you want it to be, so you can let your users through the network, so the network will take care of the onboarding process. That means pretty much the full onboarding of the KYC, PEPs and sanctions and all the checks based on the jurisdiction. Once it is done, because you passed all the checks, now you are able to access any kind of regulated services. When we say regulated services, means any services which needs KYC or regulations to be passed. Let it be financial services, let it be investment services, let it be very much like as any kind of real world asset based services. That's what it is the network does. So once you pass all the checks, you can access the financial services like IBAN. You can get an IBAN, so you can do all kind of FX, remittance, all the services, buying and selling of the crypto against the fiat, and you can do the settlements across the ecosystem. At the same time, you can use this network to get compliant as well. For example, when KYT became compulsory, chain analysis was born. So now for the projects to become KYT compliant, it's compulsory right now, KYT. If you're providing crypto services, you need to integrate each analysis in your ecosystem. Similarly, when the whole ecosystem is getting compliant, let it be MiCA, let it be MAS, let it be even FCA very soon, which is adopting MiCA as well, you just have to integrate e-money network, or you can add e-money wallet in your dApp. So pretty much you are complying MiCA, because the users coming through e-money wallet, the wallet is taking care of all the onboarding checks and everything and following all the regulations and compliance. So pretty much you are literally providing services through a wallet which is already fulfilled, so you automatically become compliant as well. So in short, e-money network allows projects, dApps, even chains, exchanges to be MiCA or depending on the jurisdiction where they're based, compliant and can offer regulated services like financial services as well to their users here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raj. Okay, looking at the time now, I'll just take the last question, which is a pretty generic question, and I'm sure a lot of listeners might have this question. How does a newbie in the space, how does someone who is very new to the space learn more about RWA tokenization and, all these projects like us coming up? So if anyone would like to answer that question.
I think a good starting point would be to really learn about the broader industry in general. Go to dashboards such as rwa.xyz. We'll be releasing a dashboard at Sharpe as well, pretty much giving you deep analytics on everything getting tokenized, from treasuries to bonds to stocks to everything else. So I think that would be a good place to understand where the most amount of activity is happening, and really get a deep understanding first about, I think, from a broader perspective, from a high level, and then really understanding specific use cases. And as a user, you're pretty much coming from either wanting to invest in, let's say tokenized bonds, right? For example, just to earn, let's say, those 5% stable yields, or investing into products such as Paxos Gold, just for an example, for tokenized, let's say, again, other tokenized instruments. So I think starting from understanding the products from a high level perspective, trying to get a grasp of what's happening in the industry, I think that's a good starting point. And then it's really about your specific use case. And I'm sure there are tons of dashboards and products that really go deeper into anything and everything you really need.
So yes, thank you so much, Rishabh. In fact, all of us also have a blog sections where you can read blogs. We have technical blogs, we have generic blogs. You can in fact go to blog.emoney.io and also check out some informative articles that we try posting as well. Perfect. So I think with this we can end our episode 2 of Real World Alpha Chats. Thank you so much to all our speakers and all our listeners for joining.
Yeah, I'd like to add one thing, Guinea, if you don't mind. So, I really
Thank you.
appreciate Tamar from Kima, Rishabh from Sharpe, Kevin from RWA joining this event. I request listeners to go through individual project details and the social platforms. We are all working together in this space where every one of us are solving a unique problem in the industry. Like Tamar mentioned, Kima, they do they act as settlement layer to tap into the liquidity cross chain, which is something no one ever did it, first of its kind. Similar to RWA, as Kevin mentioned, they have this fantastic platform for all RWA assets to trade and tokenize and then trade everything. At the same time, Sharpe AI, it's already in the market. They do this AI based it's an app where you can swap anything to anything. Literally, they do support a lot of currencies as well, and we all are coming together to accelerate the RWA industry so people can adopt and take the RWA tokenization to the next level. So we appreciate the listeners as well for joining this call, and we request to go through all the 4 projects where you can learn more, and then maybe you can get a new idea to build something on top of any one of our projects as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
for having us, and thank you, Raj. It was indeed amazing, and I think very eye-opening to hear all of these opinions and visions of the participants in this great space. Thank you for having us. It's been fun. It's been amazing. It's been educative, and looking forward to having fun with you guys again. Thank you for having me, Kima.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening, and thank you for great moderation here. And the session has been recorded, so we will share it on our social media, and we hope everybody will do the same so we can spread the word about real world asset tokenization. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye bye.
you. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.